Okay, so in this video, we're going to talk about how to actually hold the drumsticks. Okay, there's going to be a quiz at the end of this, so pay very close attention. All these details really matter, okay? You could right now, if you wanted to, just pick up the drumsticks, make a fist, and start making sounds, okay? But down the road, you're not going to want to just be playing. You're going to want to play. And that takes holding the drumsticks correctly. Okay, so all your fingers have to be in the right position. You have to be in the right spot of the stick. A lot of details, and you're going to kind of have to learn these over time. Okay, so let's start with not the drumsticks. Let's start with the practice pad. Okay, the height of the practice pad is super important. Okay, when you do this, you're going to be standing up. Okay, that bottom screw. This is a little bit different than the practice pad I showed you in the last video. This is mine. Okay, this bottom screw here allows you to raise or lower the practice pad. Remember, we're never going to tilt it. Okay, so what you're looking for when you set up the height of the practice pad is when you hold the sticks, are your arms almost flat? Okay, so you can see right now I'm holding the drumsticks. The stick is slightly angled down, and my forearm is slightly angled down. Okay, so if the pad is too high, it's going to kind of look like this. See how it looks like I'm reaching up with my forearms and my elbows are really high? I don't want that. Okay, if the pad is too low, it's going to look like this. See how my forearm is now pointing almost straight down? Okay, so we want it to be right here. And what you can do is you can pause this video, and if you've got a mirror, you can compare what my arms and hands look like to what your arms and hands look like. Okay, make sure you set the pad correctly. Okay, so let's talk about holding the drumsticks. Okay, this is a baseball. I can hold the baseball like this. Okay, I used to play baseball a lot. I used to play golf. I used to play basketball. I use a lot of sports analogies when I teach percussion. Okay, I used to play these sports, but that was 25 years and 40 pounds ago. So I can hold a baseball like this. Okay, but when I throw it, it's going to come out of my hand wrong. Okay, so when you play baseball, you learn to grab the ball in a very specific way. You put two fingers across the seams and you kind of pinch it between your fourth finger and your thumb, and that way when you release the ball, it spins like this. Okay, that doesn't happen when I just grip it with my palm. Okay, same thing with the drumstick. If I just grip it like I'm making a fist, then I no longer have the kind of flexibility I need in my hand to get the stick to do what I need it to do. So there's a very specific place for all your fingers to go. Okay, first thing we're going to talk about is the fulcrum. Okay, without the sticks, take both your hands and make a plus sign with your index finger and thumb. So your thumb is going to go right across the index finger, and in that first joint, okay, that first crease in your index finger, that's where you want your thumb to go. Okay, that is called the fulcrum. Now, the fulcrum is a term we get from physics. Think about a seesaw. Okay, a fulcrum is a pivot point, so you can think of it as the middle of the seesaw. Okay, that controls where the stick pivots from. Okay, so try that plus sign now on the drumstick. Okay, so I'm holding the stick with just my fulcrum. The fulcrum is made up of the index finger and the thumb. And the reason that's so important is because, like I said, we don't play with a fist. Okay, sometimes we want to let the stick bounce, and that's what the fulcrum is for. Okay, kind of like a seesaw. You see how it's pivoting right there between the index finger and the thumb? Okay, so my thumb is kind of half on and half off. Okay, I'm using the pad of my thumb, but you can still see about half of the pad is exposed. I don't want to put my thumb all the way on the stick, okay, because that creates too much friction. Okay, so that's my fulcrum. Those two should always be across from each other. I had a percussion instructor once tell me that if you're holding the stick correctly, you should be able to take a nail and drive it straight through your thumb, through the stick, and come out the other side of the index finger. Okay, again, think about that seesaw. Okay, that hinge, that's another word for fulcrum. Okay, so that's how we set up the index finger and the thumb. See if you can do this with just two fingers. Okay, kind of let that stick pivot in your hand, and that's a good test. Now, for the rest of the hand, we're going to leave the fulcrum, which is on the tape, okay? Leave the fulcrum as it is, and then just wrap the other 3 fingers around it, okay? Now, this is different than making a fist, okay? This is making a fist. See how the thumb is now kind of over here? We also don't want to do this, okay? We call this hitchhiker thumb, okay? It looks like you're hanging out on the side of the road, like trying to get a ride, okay? So we want the fulcrum in place. The fulcrum, that's the index finger and the thumb, right there on the tape, and then we wrap the fingers around, okay? Now, we have 2 basic hand shapes that we use. To start with, we're going to be using the one that's called a cylinder, okay? Think about the shape of this drumstick here. It's in the shape of a cylinder. So when you make a cylinder with your hands, you're basically molding your hand to the shape of the drumstick. So it's wrapped around perfectly. And it's not very tight, okay? I can easily pull this stick out of my hand. Okay? I don't need to squeeze. I joke with students like, I don't want to see a pile of sawdust at your feet. Don't grind your hand into the stick. Okay? Just wrap it around gently, and we make even contact throughout the hands. Like I'm squeezing the same amount on the fulcrum right now as I am on the pinky, on the ring finger, on the index finger. Okay? They're all the same. So that's called a cylinder. The other shape we make is called a cone, okay? And a cone is wider in the back. So for a cone, you're gonna have your fulcrum is not gonna change, but the back of the hand is gonna open up a little bit. This is not a cone, okay? Think like that. So a cone is used whenever we want to allow the stick to bounce, okay? A cone means the fulcrum stays the same and the back fingers open up and give the stick room to bounce. So just practice, without playing anything, practice going from a cylinder to a cone. See how that's a really small movement? Okay? Not like this. Don't take your fingers completely away from the stick. Cylinder, cone, cylinder, cone, cylinder, cone. And the fulcrum never changes. Fulcrum is the same always. You will never ever take your fulcrum off the stick. Okay, so we've got our practice pad set up to the right height. We've learned how to hold the sticks. Now we get to talk about where to position them on the head. You are going to play in the dead center of your practice pad, okay? So right here, this is where both sticks play. We don't put the right stick on the right side and the left stick on the left side. We put the beads of the stick, or the tips of the stick, right in the center. And we make a 90-degree angle, okay? So like a corner. You can think of it like this, okay? Like the corner of a box, and then just turn it like that. That's a 90-degree angle. And again, look at my arms. See how they're slightly angled down? The stick is slightly angled down. My hands are in a cylinder. Okay, so this position you see right here, this is called set position. Okay, so if you hear me in class say, go to set position, you go right here and you freeze. Okay, this means we're ready for the next thing. Okay, now raised position means you're going to take your wrists right here and you're going to bring the sticks up with your wrist. So we call this raised position. Okay, now I'm ready to play my first note. Okay, from here, I can start playing. Okay, so set position, raised position. Notice how my arms didn't move when I go to raised position. Notice how my fingers, my hand shape didn't move. I'm still in a cylinder. Also notice the tips of the sticks. Okay, some of you are going to have a tendency to do this to bring your sticks away from each other. We want to keep the tips of the sticks right next to each other. Okay, one of the things we do in class is we practice moving up and down slowly, like this, going from set position to raised position and only moving the wrists. The arms stay relaxed and in place. Set position, raised position, and then now we're ready to play.